Hi Nick, thanks so much for agreeing to be our guest
I had
writer.
no choice.
It was for the September Rothbury Poetry Writing and Music event, and I am grateful, and yes you did have a choice, but thank you for inviting us to your garden and to
You're welcome.
agree to be filmed as well. It's super.
Yep. So as long as you don't mind the chickens or the dog, then I think we'll be fine.
I think that's an added bonus. Usually when we have these events live before the pandemic, obviously, we held them at the Coquetdale Hotel, and the guest writer would always start the event off, and they tend to start by telling us a little bit about themselves, a little bit about where they're from. So for you, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and when you came to Rothbury, where you came from originally?
Yeah, sure. I mean, very briefly, I'm from Penrith in the northwest originally, and was part of the tidal flow of young people from market towns in the northwest of England who ended up down in London, spent 10 years, almost 10 years down there, working in various different industries, all kind of travel related in one way or another, and then I think after 10 years decided I had enough of that, had enough of London, disappeared off abroad with my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, and returned to the UK via a circuitous route to the northeast. Not immediately to Rothbury, but about 1997 came back to the northeast, and moved to Rothbury about 6 years ago now.
All right, so similar length of time as me, so all the best people moved in.
I'm not entirely local,
Yes.
but I feel it was a good move.
Yes.
Rothbury's really welcoming. Small town, large village, what you want to call it, and the landscapes around here are glorious.
Just amazing, isn't it? It's a great place to be, and I'm glad that I've met you as well. And so you're a travel writer, but do you write in any other genre?
Am I a travel writer? Difficult one. I'm not even sure that's right. Travel journalism.
Okay.
A bit of travel writing. I've done a little bit of current affairs. I've done travel journalism. I would say travel reporting more than anything else. But I don't have aspirations to segue into any other fields.
So you don't write poetry? You've not tried fiction?
Not since my teenage years, and I really don't think I'd want to inflict those upon you.
I know that I've read that Graham Greene is a particular favourite travel writer of yours.
Yep.
But is there any other travel writers that you admire? Can you tell us a little bit about what you like about them?
Okay, well, Greene, yes. I don't really read a lot of fiction. I tend to found myself going from one biography to another. However, I make an exception for Graham Greene. In some instances, in fact in several instances, I found myself almost treading in his footsteps, and visiting places where he's either lived or he mentions in his novels, and that his life very interesting. I like the way that he combines historical events, a bit of political intrigue, and he's quite dark writer, I think. But having said that, he's also very humorous. Yeah. So I like all those sort of combinations.
So you said you followed in his footsteps. Was that a deliberate thing, or you mean looking back?
No, not deliberate. I mean, sometimes that was at the back of my mind when I was pushing for a particular commission. I don't know. I think of, for instance, Haiti.
Yes.
Haiti. I stayed at the. Did I stay there? No, I didn't stay there. I just visited and drank in the bar of the Hotel Olofsson in Port-au-Prince.
Right.
And the Olofsson was in fact called the Trianon Hotel Trianon in Green's book, The Comedians, and it is almost exactly as he describes it. And that's the Comedians. I recommend that to anybody who wants to know about the modern history in Haiti. It's an excellent read. Again, it's very dark, but it's an excellent read. Sierra Leone's another one. Heart of the Matter is Green's book. Place where he stayed doesn't really exist anymore, or only in a shell. It's unfortunately a derelict building, the City Hotel, I think it was. But nonetheless, the background there is really interesting, and to be there as well, that kind of just adds depth to the experience. Vietnam's another one. Cuba is another one. These things are all there, and I just really like the way that he's brought current affairs, historic current affairs, and he's melded that into a prose novel.
Yes.
So yeah.
And any other travel writers?
I know travel publishers. Hilary Bratt is an amazing woman. She and her husband at the time were the powerhouse behind Bratt Travel Guides, who are a little independent publisher. Who have really pioneered many lesser-known destinations, places off the beaten track, and allowed writers the scope to write about something that's not commercial. And I know Hilary, and she's always been a great proponent of tourism and conservation. She's always had a weather eye to the way that the economics of tourism can be a very effective way of supporting a shattered economy, and doing it very quickly and not requiring vast amounts of infrastructure. She's not talking about mass tourism here, but she's really helped almost indirectly a number of emerging destinations around the world. So a lot of time for Hilary Bratt.
Thanks. That's really interesting, and I've not heard of her, but I will look her up.
I mean, and I'm not paid for saying this, but very interesting one.
So, I have to admit that the type of writing that you do, which I clumsily I'm just calling travel writing, but you've corrected me quite rightly that it has different names for it. But it's a new genre for me. I don't tend to read that kind of genre, but I'm going to now, because having listened to some of your podcasts and watched some of your videos and read articles, I'm really struck by it, and if I found reading some of the stuff, the time just went really quickly as I was sucked into this other world. And I noted, and it's something you just said about the Hilary, you tend to, it seems that you pick destinations that aren't the more usual, like holiday destination. Sometimes places that have had a huge catastrophe or negative connotations to them. So tell me about that. How do you pick your destinations and why?
Yeah, well, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm a huge proponent of dark tourism.
Is that a term? Is that a term?
It is a term.
Right.
Yeah, it is a term. It's almost like disaster tourism. In a way. I'm not a proponent of that at all. But I do think that visitors can do their bit in terms of removing negative connotations by blowing away false preconceptions about a destination. And in the exactly what I said about Hilary, I think that tourism, when it's managed well, can be a very effective way of putting in place, a more solid foundation for people to help themselves.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the current situation we're in now, and the number of people that are involved in travel and tourism, not just in the UK, but in parts of Europe and across the world, and how this will be a really big problem for them.
Yeah. Yes. Which countries have you been to? I don't mean all of them, because there's probably too many to list. But can you name some that have made a deep impression on you?
Yeah, I mean, springing immediately to mind, I think of Sierra Leone. I've visited a few times now. The first time about 2006. I think the Sierra Leone Civil War ended in 2002, so it was a good few years afterwards. But really, if you asked the man in the street, the woman in the street, what would they think of in respect of Sierra Leone, it would be the war.
Yes.
And it takes a long time for that kind of association to disappear. And indeed, they did manage to just about start to overcome that. On my second visit there, things were looking quite positive. Water was coming out of taps, electricity was coming out of sockets.
Right.
Little community-based tourism projects were really starting to thrive, and then out of nowhere came Ebola.
Oh Lord!
And it really kicked them in the teeth. And I did travel again at the tail end of the Ebola epidemic out to Sierra Leone, and it was almost like a deja vu scenario. It was like being there in 2006.
Really?
But now, same things happen again. They are pulling this. Even now, they're starting to move on.
Okay.
But it's it's going to take a little while. Where else? Libya. Libya, I've visited during Gaddafi's time. I was there in Benghazi during the revolution, which was it was a really exciting. It sounds like an adrenaline tourist. I mean, it was a really exciting time to be there. But I'd just been in Egypt, and Egypt was in much the same situation.
Okay.
Egypt at the time, Hosni Mubarak had disappeared. They had no president. Crossed over the border from Egypt to Libya, and in that time there was no border control. It was simply a case of walking across the border, and I ended up in Benghazi, and it was fascinating at that time to see what I feel was a genuine revolution. It was driven by the young people of Libya, who'd had 47 years of a kleptocrat dictator. We're being assaulted by chickens now, okay? But it felt, I felt the energy of the young people. I felt the idealism.
Did you ever feel afraid?
Not there, no. I mean, I was aware fighting was still going on, but it was, I wasn't going to mess about that. That was about 40 kilometres away at the time.
Were you on your own when you were there?
Yeah. I remember one bizarre situation, lying in possibly the worst hotel in Benghazi, listening to gunfire outside, which wasn't people shooting at each other, but there was a small arms market on the other side of the street where you could buy pretty much whatever weapon you wanted, up to heavy caliber machine guns. But obviously customers wanted to be sure that these were in fact fully functioning pieces of kit, and so went out and said, try before you buy. And while this was going on, Libyan Loyalist TV was playing on a rather battered TV set on top of a shelf in my room, and also Rebel TV, and then on the other channel was Brideshead Revisited.
How incongruous!
So it was quite an odd situation. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a good story. So, I read that you worked in Sudan in the 1980s,
yeah, I did.
I think I'm right in saying that was when it was Africa's longest-running civil war.
Yes, it
there.
was.
Is that right?
It was. It was a conflict between the government in Khartoum and the Sudanese People's Liberation Army under the leadership of a charismatic Southern Sudanese man called John Garang, who was who died under questionable circumstances in a plane crash shortly, I think almost coincident with the time of the independence vote, which resulted in Sudan ceding into Sudan and South Sudan.
Okay.
Things might have been very different in South Sudan if he had not been killed.
What were you working as?
I worked as a sub-editor for the Sudanese news agency in Khartoum, and also did a bit of sub-editing for an English language magazine out there, Sudan Now magazine, and freelance. I ended up editing a pamphlet for the Omo People's Liberation Organisation.
Wow.
Which I think I got paid 10 quid for. So financially it was the most lucrative time of my life. But it was a very interesting time, and I think that time in Sudan, it was a formative period. It's a fascinating country, and I can't believe I haven't been back. I thoroughly intend to, but it just hasn't happened yet.
How long were you there for?
I was there for about, not that long, about 3 months or so.
Okay.
3 months, yeah,
Yes.
3 months.
And in the piece in one of the pieces you wrote about that, I want to just read this quote that you said and ask you a little bit about it.
Yeah.
You said that resilience and innovation are human qualities, less obviously expressed in Western Europe, and I believe our lives are poorer for it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Can you explain what you mean a little bit?
Well, in very practical terms, there's satisfaction to be gained from relying on the resources you have to hand, and I think that examples of that are more easily observed and are more manifest in places where your resources are limited.
Right.
And I think there's something quite deep down in this is my own opinion. There's something quite deep down in the human psyche that derives great satisfaction from making something work, being resourceful, and I think it's not for everybody, but I think in many facets of our lives these days, we do not have to be resourceful. We do not have to use that part of our brain which is best exercised by being resourceful. It's not to say we should make our life difficult for ourselves, but there's something admirable that I find. There's something admirable in observing that.
That's fascinating. And which kind of travel writing or travel journalism, but probably travel writing, I do want to say, do you not admire so much?
Top 10 spas in Dubai.
Okay.
To be honest, I think travel journalism has, in my view, undermined its own credibility in the past few years. Part of this has been driven by commercial expediency, in that editors of many publications are have fewer resources to deal with. The onset of new media has diluted the impact of traditional media, print in particular. But in a way, excuse me. In a way, this has led to a focus on a kind of content, and I even hate the word, a content which is just very commercial. It's driven by what advertisers can this piece attract.
Right. Yes.
Where's the return, and in my view, because of that, it's devalued the whole genre, and now we in a way we reap the rewards, and they are that outlets no longer exist for I would say a good story, or outlets do exist, they are fewer.
Yes.
but a good story should be should have more value than it's attracted of late. And here we are, print journalism in all areas has fallen off a cliff. And travel journalism has always, it's existed on the margins of real journalism for a long time, and now it's it's squeezed even more, and that was before all this COVID-19 arrived. I could go on about that, but really it's
I think I get your point. I understand and I agree, and I've even noticed that word count when you're reading something, it says this is a 3-minute read, or in case we're panicking thinking,
I think that's again, in my view, that's a reflection of reduced attention spans. It's also driven by results from electronic media being almost immediately quantifiable. So people can count clicks. What does that mean? I don't know. But people who look inwards on the industry, be they employed by destination marketing organisations or are hard-pressed editors pushing for funds budgets for their section, can point at these figures. So it's it's easier to quantify that sort of thing. You've been pecked by a chicken. I'm sorry. Helga, clear off.
Excuse me.
I think new media has a lot to answer for. Having said that, there are outlets within new media which are laudable and do a good job and do allow people to tell stories, but there are so many more that don't.
So what kind of qualities do you think somebody who's going into travel journalism or travel writing, what kind of qualities should they have, and what should they be bearing in mind or thinking about when they're in a country and doing their writing?
What kind of qualities? You're never going to get rich being a travel writer. But you will be richer by experience, and perhaps in the end that's all that matters. I think if you're wanting to enter that field, you have to remember that it's not enough just to enjoy travelling. You have to derive satisfaction from writing. And indeed, the hardest journey is the one that begins in front of a blank page. And you have to think hard upon that. From a practical point of view, it might be seen that you end up staying in a fancy hotel and enjoying an experience that otherwise would be out of your financial reach. But people do that. But the number of times that I've slept in awful hotels, slept on floors, travelled for 26 hours at one go in a Land Cruiser over uncommonly rough roads, arrived after 24 hours in the air in economy, and then attempted to tease out cultural gems from some foreign city, are myriad. So it's not all romance. A lot of it's hard work and being able to cope with a poor bed, very little sleep, and in certain instances, having to slap yourself around the face to kind of wake up and do an interview with somebody. And in the end, to actually make money out of the exercise, it's all well and good to wander around some far-flung country, but you've got to, certainly if you're working freelance, you've got to look at the figures and see how many pieces have I sold off the back of this trip, what does it cost me to be here, do you come out on the right side of the equation, and if you don't do it.
So can you say a little bit more about that in terms of the process of? Do you get a commission and then you go somewhere, or do you think I'm going to go to such a country and write about it? How does it work, and how do you do your writing?
Yeah, well, I would say that I never travel without a commission.
Okay.
Been one or two exceptions in the past. A couple of those only go to highlight why you should never travel without a commission. On the other hand, there was one trip that, in fact, the last trip that I did to Sierra Leone, I had, this was not a jolly. There were no tourist organisations even thinking of supporting somebody travelling to Sierra Leone during the time when the World Health Organisation had not declared the country Ebola free. So there were no free flights, no free hotels, no free transport, nobody guiding me, nothing. But I felt that in the previous 2 trips that I travelled to the country, I almost owed them a debt. I wanted to give something back, and if I could at least spread the word to show how they had surmounted, this undeserved disaster, then I would be going some way to repaying that debt, and in the end it actually worked out really well, and in fact I saw quite many more stories on that trip.
So had you been commissioned to write a story?
I think I think maybe I had one commission lined up, but it's not worth doing a trip like that based on one commission. Right. So I think in the end I probably had about 7.
So you would go on the back of 7, but you might write something yourself and sell it when you come back? Or pitch. I mean, a lot of the time, if you're a freelance writer, then you have to have a fairly thick skin. Right. So it's a case of pitching the idea. So I've got 2 editors, various different publications. So you would phone them or email them and say...
These days it's email, really. Or, a bit of networking always helps. Obviously it's a little bit difficult living in the northeast of England to network with editors who are mostly down in London. But that's a lifestyle decision that I've made. So mostly it's email.
So you might get in touch with them and say, I'm actually in Sierra Leone and I'm...
I have done that before. I didn't do it with that one. I think I banged my head against a brick wall, or shouted into a void, or was one hand clapping, or whatever other simile you want to use, for so long before that trip that I just thought, I'm going. And bought my airline ticket on Air France, and slept in the spare room of a lovely Sierra Leonean guy who I got to know over my previous two visits, and spent my time zipping around the Freetown Peninsula on the back of motorcycle taxis, and was also able to interview brigadier in charge of the British military response to the Ebola pandemic, and he was very helpful as well, and it was very impressive to see what the British Army were doing actually out in Sierra Leone, and I do recommend Sierra Leone as a destination for anybody who's interested in a really intense dose of West Africa, and the refreshing experience of being welcomed as a British person, because Sierra Leone has form, and whatever you may think, they remember the military intervention which ended the civil war in Sierra Leone, and they appreciate the part that the British military played in that. And positive outcomes of military inventions are few and far to come.
Absolutely.
But it is one of them.
Yes.
And it's a fascinating country. I recommend it to anybody.
So when you went back each night to the room in your friend's home, did you have what were you actually doing? Were you writing with a pen, or what were you doing?
No, I'll just take a laptop. To be honest, in the process, I mean, at one point during that trip, I actually found myself writing about a previous trip to northern Sweden. So it's, it's a little bit, because it had to be done.
I see, right.
It had been filed some time earlier, and I think some changes, or it might have even been a separate piece. But anyway, I found myself on Bimbola Carroll's porch in sweltering Freetown, writing about being in northern Sweden in minus 27 degrees. But that sometimes happens. But for me, generally, again, there are exceptions, but generally, I need a little while to process what I've done.
Oh, right.
And I
Yes.
I do take a voice recorder, and I do record interviews, but I find by far the most efficient way to actually work in the field is a notebook with a pen, a notebook with a hard back, in
Yes.
fact, a notebook with a hard back, and taking notes.
Yes.
Because it's you tend to take notes of those phrases, those quotes that actually matter.
Yes.
Whereas if you record a whole interview, then there's so much in there which is extraneous and will not end up being used in a piece of copy that's 1,000 words long.
Yes.
Pictures are also really useful. Not just a lot of my pictures are published. They end up being published, and I do get paid for them still, which is remarkable. As photography has suffered the same the same decay in revenue, or photographers have suffered the same decay in revenue as writers have. But also they're really useful as an aide-memoire, so you can look back and you can see the chronology, and it just helps you put yourself back in that place, because sometimes you may find yourself revising a piece which has been filed a year earlier. 6 months earlier is not uncommon. So those things. So I think the things that I would always travel with: notebook, pens, many of them, the ones that will not leak in my bag, again, and a camera. Nothing too fancy, but something durable.
So you don't use your phone camera, you do actually have a proper camera?
I do.
Yeah.
I've some people do use phones. I mean, they're kind of ubiquitous, but in most cases they can be used in digital media, phone pictures, but if you want those pictures to be reproduced in print, then they need to be of a higher quality. And quality is not just measured by pixels. It's measured by the quality of the lens on your camera. Just a practical thing. It is unwieldy, it is obtrusive, but and sometimes it's uncomfortable to actually do it, but you want to take a picture of the person you're interviewing. You want to have some colour, and it used to be the case that I'd sometimes I'd be paid more for the pictures than I would be for the words. That's
that's interesting.
Marginal now. Marginal now.
Well, reading your stuff, I think it is remarkable, and I think you've got a real massive, huge talent for getting to the nugget.
You're saying
of what
all
it
the
is.
right things here, Katie.
It's true. But so I'm going to ask you probably a hard question, because if I was you, I wouldn't know how to answer it. But can you tell me which piece of work, or perhaps pieces of work, that you do feel particularly proud of?
Feel that proud about anything, to be honest, but you might want to edit that out, but
I'm proud of, in terms of it being a good piece of writing.
I liked a couple of the pieces that I did when I was in Benghazi during the revolution. Bizarrely, though they were really hard to write, and I remember filing them from a revolutionary press headquarters in Benghazi with a lead dangling from the ceiling to plug my laptop into, and they were short pieces. I think 500 words each.
Why were they hard to write?
It's just practically getting around the city at that time. It's fairly chaotic.
Do you
and there was they were they were stories of the moment.
Right.
So they had a finite shelf life.
Yes.
And if they were going to be worth anything at all, they needed to be written, edited and printed. And I did my part of the bargain, but God help me, they disappeared and were never published by the newspaper. And I thought they were too, on a good day, I thought I'd written a couple of good pieces. And that was annoying.
Yes.
Moving on from that, not that I bear grudges at all. I would say I was quite proud about Sierra Leone pieces. I thought they were helpful.
Yeah.
And there were some glorious experiences there as well. I like that. One particularly bizarre one was from Slovenia, which is not that far flung at all, but it was an interesting story, and it was exploring Melania Trump's hometown.
Wow.
Sevnica, or Sevnica, I think is the correct pronunciation. And that was...
When did you go there? When was this?
Oh, good God, when was that? Not even sure.
She was the First Lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was... how should I say? She had been elevated to the position of First Lady, and it was just an interesting opportunity to mooch around a small town in an otherwise unremarkable part of Slovenia, and to see what her upbringing had been. And it was very amusing. There were a number of events in that which were quite funny. And I do like a bit of humour.
Let me stop you there, because I think I'm going to ask you to read that when we finish.
Okay.
But before we finish, I suppose I have to ask you, favourite destinations, places you'd want to go back to?
I mentioned Sudan earlier. I'd really like to go back to Sudan.
And will you?
I've come close to it a few times, and then just things didn't quite happen. I was almost there in the south for the Declaration of Independence, and then that all fell apart for various reasons. I would like to go back to Yemen. I've been to Yemen a few times, and the place is a real mess at the moment. But it's a remarkable country, and it really doesn't deserve to be in the situation that it's in at the moment. Syria too, absolutely fascinating place. Great people. I found another piece I really liked was a piece I wrote on Syria and on Hama, a town in Syria. But this was before the Arab Spring. I thought that worked out well, and rereading it now, it has there's some foretelling of the current situation in it, which was unintended, but that's happened. I don't know where else. There's always somewhere. Lebanon again.
Where wouldn't you go back?
There are a few places in the Gulf, though, not to actively seek out. Again, if there was a job there, then I would do it.
Right.
But for instance, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar.
What's the problem with those countries?
I really like Arab cultures. I'm not a big fan of the Gulf. I think the way that those destinations have evolved really just highlight a kind of unattractive commercialism, a kind of devaluing of local culture. The way that guest workers in those destinations are treated under the sponsorship contracts is appalling, and it's just not somewhere I'd really seek out. Again, it's a job. Travel journalism is a job, so if a job arose, then maybe I would do it. But it's not somewhere I'd actively seek out at all.
And where haven't you been yet that you'd like to?
I would like to go to Afghanistan. I've had one foot across the middle of the Amudarya River from Tajikistan into Afghanistan. And there are areas of Afghanistan which have continued to be visited throughout the turmoil that's engulfed the country.
By holidaymakers or?
Commercially there's
Yes.
a wonderful character I know called Jeff Han, who's continued to operate archaeological tours to Afghanistan throughout all this. He's getting on a bit now, and I think he may have used up Superdrug's entire supply of blood pressure pills, but he's been going there regularly. But there are parts of the the panhandle of Afghanistan, the Wakhan corridor.
Okay.
That's been an area which has been relatively unaffected by the turmoil which is engulfed other parts of the country. Bamiyan too, despite what happened with the Bamiyan Buddhas, is another area which has been relatively untouched. You know, it's difficult to tell on a day-to-day basis, but it's somewhere that I'd hope to visit in the future. So there you have it. Really.
And so, thank you. It's been so wide-ranging and so brilliant. But I do know, like other travel journalists, you've been a bit curtailed with the pandemic here.
You could say that.
So what are your plans? So has it made you start thinking about doing anything differently, or are you just waiting till everything's clear? What kind of plans have you got for the future?
Well, I suppose not actually predicated by the COVID pandemic. It was something that was the back of my mind anyway.
Okay.
But I do still think that despite the prevalence of digital media, there's something to be said for print. And I still think that words on paper in a book have value and can be valued by the reader. Something to pick up, something to smell, and it's kind of a nice experience. And also I think there's value in a story. So I have it in mind to become a publisher, and in fact to produce. I think that the awful phrase is a boutique magazine, but it's almost a cross between a book and a magazine. Something which has shelf life, but not something that will be packed with advertisements. There may be a commercial angle to it, may have to be. But it will have good stories in it, and that will be prose, perhaps some poetry, photography and illustration. I think by virtue of the situation that we're in, it's likely that it will be UK themed, and that it'll be a fairly high value product. But I think there's a market for that.
Right.
So I think people will still buy good stories. Good photography, good illustration.
This sounds exciting.
Yeah,
so would you be commissioning people to write pieces for you, or would you welcome people to send you pieces?
No, I would welcome pitches.
Yes.
And a pitch is a short thing.
Yeah, right.
And I've been told this by numerous editors over the year. They do not want unsolicited copy.
Right.
You want a pitch which is succinct,
telling what you could do.
Why you're doing it. Why you're doing it now?
Right.
Just something that grabs you.
Yes.
That's probably what I'll be looking to do.
And would this be a few copies a year, or?
Yes, I think so. I think probably in the first instance no more than 4. So it would be quarterly. Okay. But we'll just see how things develop.
And will you continue with your travel journalism?
Yeah.
When it's feasible to. Yes.
There are a few hopeful signs now.
Right. Good.
But the ground remains uncertain.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows?
Well, that's been so brilliant. I'm just so interested in all that you do. And now, will you read that piece about Melania?
I will. I'll probably have to have a drink of water first, because I think my voice might give out.